Well, God bless you. Thank you so very much. Thank you for joining this morning, and thank you for being a part of the broadcast here at Kingdom Voice. My name is Apostle Lance Bellany, and as always, it is my pleasure to have you here with us, to be a part of the broadcast, and to have you journey along with us as we share with you truths of the kingdom from an apostolic perspective. It is a gorgeous, cold Sunday morning here in South Texas. This is a part of our annual reprieve from the hot, the heat, and the humidity of our traditional weather pattern here in South Texas. And so we're enjoying it as much as we can, uh, realizing we're not snow bunnies, we're truly swamp rabbits. If if I can use that. But it is a gorgeous Sunday morning here. The sun is bright, lots of vitamin D coming through the trees and from the sun, and so we're enjoying this. And I hope you are enjoying the weather wherever you are as much as you can. I know some of our citizens and some of our neighbors in the Northeast are getting bludgeoned by the blistering cold and inundated by the incessant snow that's coming down upon them. So let's keep them in our prayers that they stay safe and don't succumb to some of the uh, bad situations that can come from this inclement weather that they are receiving. So let's just be mindful of them. But at any rate, I want to say to all of you, as I've said on every episode of this broadcast, the broadcast wouldn't be what it is without you. Um, it's important for us to share with one another, and I want to invite all of you to share your thoughts and your comments on the broadcast today. Whether you're watching on Facebook or whether you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to share your thoughts and comments. Amen. 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 Well, I want to talk about um, a subject that is pressing all of us. Yeah, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are just religious or if you're devout or if you're kingdom or whatever you are. This issue is pressing you, whether you live in a foreign country or whether you live in the continental USA. This issue is impacting the entire globe, period, full stop. And today I want to talk about the America First agenda and the kingdom agenda. I want to talk about that today because I think it is growing more and more and more important in the lives of everyone. Whether you are a unconcerned kingdom person or whether you are a devout kingdom person, whether you are political or whether you are non-political, it is impacting everyone. And this is and can be a good thing, and for many people it can be a bad thing. So this is a very polarizing thing, to say the least. And it is important for us to understand, for the kingdom citizens to understand the context of the times that we're living in and the impact that this is having on our present day. And where is this leading us? Where is this going to lead us with regard to where, with regards to our kingdom journey? Where is this going to lead us? And I want to go back, I want to step back and talk about something first that I have touted on this broadcast over and over and over. It is vitally important, critically key, that you begin to understand what God is saying, what Elohim is saying in this season. Forget about what you're reading in the scriptures. Forget about what you're hearing. What's most important above the scriptures and what you're hearing, the noise in the media, including me, what's most important is what are you hearing from God? Period. Full stop. What are you hearing God say to you? That's the only thing that is important. And I make no preconceptions about what that is you're hearing. The only requisite is, are you hearing it from God? There is only one person that can answer that, and that is you. Are you hearing God say this to you? And now let me throw a few caveats in there. Or are you so accustomed to hearing from your church, from your pastor, from your organization, from religion, from the scriptures? Are you so accustomed to hearing from those places that you completely or that you are completely ignorant? And I don't mean that in a stupid way. I mean that in a just an ignorant as in I just don't know what God's voice sounds like way. That's what I'm talking about. Because many people have no idea what the voice of God sounds like. They only know what the voice of their church, their pastor, their religious leader, their organization, religion sounds like. And so I want to make a distinction between those two things. And so when we start talking about this season, the most critical aspect of this season is that you learn what the voice of God sounds like in your ears. Again, I've said this on many occasions, and I want to repeat myself. God speaks the language of me. I'm going to say that again. God speaks my language. I'm not talking about our articulated language, as in French, German, English, Russian, Chinese, Japanese. I'm not talking about articulated language. I'm talking about inherent understanding language, meaning God can speak to me quietly, silently. God can speak to me through vision. God can speak to me through sense of smell and taste. God can speak to me through consciousness and unconsciousness. This is the kind of language that I'm talking about. Some of it is nonverbal. In most instances with God, it is nonverbal. But God communicates and gives me a sense of I am speaking to you so that I can give special and critical attention to what I am hearing to begin to understand what God sounds like. When I say sound, I don't necessarily mean audible sound, but what is the sensation of God speaking to me. When I can begin to determine and understand that, I can begin to distinguish between when others are talking to me or when I'm being communicated to by others versus when I am being communicated to by God. This is important because if we don't learn how to recognize the voice of God in my person, I will, listen to me closely, everyone. I will fall victim to the voice of this season or the voice of this era. I will fall victim to the voice of this era. And you will begin to believe and hear and say things that have nothing to do with the kingdom, nothing to do with God. And it will lead you down a path away from God, away from the Creator. So many of us have become so accustomed to the traditional places to gain understanding, the traditional places to gain spiritual insight, as we have called it for so long, that the voice of God has become marginalized. Listen to me closely. I want to say this. This is important. This is critical. Israel oftentimes fell victim to the same thing that is upon us in the US today. They fell victim to peace. They fell victim to plenty and prosperity. There were, oh, listen, even the scriptures have said there are always going to be the poor among you, always. So don't get sidetracked just because we've got poor among us to think that there is no prosperity and abundant prosperity among us, because there is. The poor will be poor in the midst of extreme prosperity. I'm going to say that again. The poor will be poor in the midst of extreme prosperity. And I'll get into this in another broadcast at some other time, because there is a certain mindset that comes along with being poor that creates the poverty that they are experiencing. But I digress. But in the times of peace and abundant prosperity and abundant pleasure, Israel fell victim to that. But there was always and has always been a remnant of people that have always been able to tune in to God and to the Spirit of God in that season. This is what I'm encouraging you to become, beloved. I'm encouraging you to become tuned in to the voice of God in the seasons that you progress through. Because if you are in tune with the voice of God, you will always be current on where, what, how, when you should be behaving, the things you should be believing, the actions you should be taking. You will always be current on those things, because the voice of God is an ever-present sound in my spirit, an ever-present provocation in my spirit. I can never go wrong if I am ever present with the voice of God, or if the voice of God is ever present with me. Your primary effort and your primary intent is to always hear the voice of God, or have the voice of God present in your hearing. I hope you're grabbing and grasping this, because I'm setting the tone for really what I want to talk about on today. The America First agenda has become such a polarizing subject in our day. First of all, everyone that, maybe not everyone, because this is an international broadcast across YouTube. It can go international, it can go global, it can just go all over everywhere. So not necessarily everyone is an American citizen, but the majority of you listening, I would guess, are American citizens. The subject of America First agenda is very polarizing. I don't want to talk about the polarization of it. We are going to talk about the polarization of it, but I also want to talk about the essence of America First as Americans. Okay. Many people want to live in a world as they wish it to be. They want to live in a world that they create in their own heads, and want to project that world onto everyone else and pretend like that is the reality of the world. Okay, let me back up again and say this. Many people want to live in a world that they fantasize about as if that is the real world that is around us. And that never is the case. The only world we get to live in is the real world, the reality. We can wish for a utopia all we want. We can wish for nirvana all we want. But the reality of it is we only get reality. So we can only and should only deal with the world as it is. And one of the things that I've found and I've seen around this subject of America First is there are enemies to America that we have to deal with. There are enemies. There are people that hate what we stand for, hate who we are. Forget about the kingdom for just a moment. You are an American in their eyes. We are Americans in their eyes. And in their eyes, we are the bully. We are the troublemaker in their eyes. Now, you can get into foreign policy and you can get into all of those things and the nuances and did we do something we shouldn't have done or did something in the best interest of America that was in the worst interest of others. You can get into all of that. But at the end of the day, we are enemies in their eyes. And they are enemies in our eyes. That is the reality of the real world. Look at your own lives. Look at your own situations. How many people at work are at odds with you? At your work, forget about foreigners, at your work that are at odds with you. Well, let's make it even a little bit personal. How many people in your family are at odds with you? Why do you think it's any different on the international scene? There is good, there is evil in this world. And I digress to that because I was talking about the America First agenda. The America First agenda deals with the best interest of America first. Then we'll deal with the broader global community. Are we taking care of America? Are we taking care of our citizenry? Are we taking care of our best interests? And when you start to think about that, people began to become conflicted. They began to become conflicted in such a way that they now began to throw religion in the conversation, and they began to throw social issues in the conversation, and they began to throw all of these humanitarian issues in the conversation, and it muddies up the water and gets away from the basic premise. Is it in the best interest of America to do thus and so? There are complex issues to be addressed in the America First agenda. No question about it, full stop. We're going to get to the kingdom agenda in just a minute, but I want to deal with this first. I want to deal with the America agenda first. I want to establish and set the tone for the America agenda first. Okay? And then we can talk, and I'm going to talk about it objectively. Okay? The pros and the cons that I see with the America First agenda. And then we'll get into the kingdom agenda. Okay? So I want to share with you what the America First agenda, the written agenda, is all about. So the America First agenda says this: the America First agenda is a policy framework championed by Donald Trump and the associated conservative groups that prioritizes U.S. national interest, economic nationalism, the border security above globalists, international or multilateral, above globalist, international, or multilateral commitments. It focuses on securing the southern border, promoting domestic manufacturing, achieving energy independence, and renegotiating foreign trade deals. Now, let me say this on that front. Probably the most polarizing aspect of this is the border security issue. Because with the border security issue comes along the humanitarian argument that many opponents of America First agenda bring up, because they consider not allowing people to come into this country illegally across the southern border at their own discretion inhumane, because the argument becomes that they are escaping bad situations, horrible situations, so forth and so on. And as a result of that, we need to be able to allow them to come into this country. There is a problem with that mindset. If you are of that mindset, hear me out. I'm not suggesting that you do anything with what I have to say other than hear me out. The problem with that mindset that we have to allow these people to come in is that they have not assimilated into our culture. You have two agendas at play here. One is an immigration agenda, and the other is a migration agenda. Immigration, we're all for that. I'm all for that. I think we ought to allow new lifestyles and new cultures into our society, new ideas from different places into our society. But to do that in a controlled fashion is called immigration. Okay? To do that in a controlled fashion, you go through the process, you go through the assimilation, you learn the language, you learn the basic semblance of the laws of our country, the civics, if you will, of our country, and then you become an American citizen. That is immigration. Then you have what we are now been accustomed to since over the past 4 years, and I lay the blame for that squarely at the feet of the previous administration. Okay, the previous administration unleashed what now is being known now. What clearly was mass migration. That's not immigration, beloved. That is not immigration. That is migration. And migration is left unchecked. The people don't assimilate. They don't speak the language. They don't know our culture. They don't know our laws. They bring to this country from their country the mindsets, the cultures, the ideas to this country in an uncontrolled fashion. It's like letting a bunch of people in your house that have no idea of the sensitivities of your home. They don't know that this area is more sensitive in your home than other areas to physical activity. They might break fine china. They might break priceless artifacts. They might, and so forth and so on. They don't know how to use the remote control on your TV. So they start changing things and they unplug wires and all. That's the chaos of migration. And we're seeing it play itself out. Murders, ignorance of the traffic laws, social norms, things like honor killings. All of these things are trying to migrate into this country, and that's what America First Agenda is opposed to. And I stand in opposition to that. Immigration, all for it. Let's go through the process. Let's become American citizens. Let's learn the laws. Migration, completely opposed to that. So the key pillars and actions of the agenda include border security, reinstating the Remain in Mexico policy, building the border wall, increasing deportations, and utilizing the military for border enforcement. Listen, any civilized country you go to, let's talk about some of the enemies, if you will, of this country, of America: Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, Venezuela. These people have traditionally been at odds with us. I say traditionally. Over some decades now, they have been at odds with our foreign policy. Okay. Now you can argue whether one foreign policy is right and the other foreign policy is wrong, or aspects of one is right and aspects of others is wrong. That's why elections have consequences. We elect leaders in this country to enact and enforce the laws of this country, and as a result, the consequences ensue. And so, therefore, people, countries become at odds with us because our leaders began to do certain things on our behalf as a republic, as a representative republic, okay? And therefore we've become at odds with countries like China and Russia. Now, I got onto that by talking about, look at their immigration policy. None of those countries have mass migration into them. It's only the European, the quote, civilized countries that allow mass migration. Europe right now is going through problems at exponential scales because of mass migration. London or England, the UK, is going through what has been termed grooming gangs, where foreign men from the Middle East have come into the UK and began sex trafficking young ladies in the UK for, you know, a sex trafficking ring. And it is widespread. First of all, the UK isn't a very big kingdom to start with. Not even as big as Texas to start with. And so when you start looking at the impact of mass migration, you begin to understand that border security is a critical issue. Economic policy is another pillar of the America First agenda, implementing pro-growth tax policies, reducing federal regulations, and fostering energy independence to boost U.S. manufacturing. That economic policy is a big issue because what has happened is America has become a welfare state. Okay, and I'm not talking about black, white. That's foolishness. I'm talking about the welfare policies of this country are not intended to create independence. They're intended to create dependence, and that's exactly what we have. Generation after generation after generation, dependent upon the largesse of the government, and the government will never give you enough to be successful. It'll only give you enough to be dependent. I'm going to say that again. The federal government will never give you enough to be successful. It will give you enough to be dependent, and that's what they do. So they create enough dependency on the federal government that the dependent individuals begin to vote in their own best interest, which is more handouts from the government. That's how that works. That's just the organic nature of that process. Why would I vote in an interest against myself? I won't. You never will. You're always going to vote in your best interest. People argue about people voting against their best interest. That's crazy. People vote for what they think is best for them. Whether you're voting for one party or the other party, whether you're voting conservative or liberal or independent, you are voting in what you consider to be the best interest for you, and thus you should. So what's imperative is that you understand what really is in my best interest. Once I determine what my best interest is, that's where I am going to vote. Listen to me closely. You will never vote against your best interest. It just will. For example, you will never vote to cut your own hand off, to gouge out your own eye, to cut your own foot off. You're never going to vote to do that. Thus, voting in your best interest. This is how people, this is just human psychology. So with that being said, when you create a pocket of an increasing pocket of poor people, of poverty, impoverished people, guess what they're going to do? They're going to vote for more government largesse or handouts. And if I can increase that number, there's a good chance that they will vote in the interest of a particular political persuasion. And that's how you begin to create a revolving door of self-interest. People vote that way. So the economic policy of America First begins to diminish the welfare state. And that is a problem for many people. They see that as inhumane, they see that as unconcern for the poor. But I got a question to ask you. I got a question to ask you. I really have a question to ask you. And feel free to add your thoughts in the comments. I really want your thoughts today. Whatever your questions, thoughts, comments, whatever, please share them in the comments today. Okay. What is in the best interest of the poor? To get them into prosperity, or to give them enough to stay in poverty? Remember what I said earlier. The government will never, ever give you enough to be prosperous. It'll only give you enough to be dependent. Okay? What's in the best interest of the poor? To educate? To teach? To demand that they be self-sufficient? Or to just indulge them in their poverty and keep handing them small handouts, small little doling out, and what have you? I believe the best interest is to give them the resources to get out of poverty, and to structure that in a way that in order to gain those resources, they have to make moves to get out of poverty. There's an old adage that says, teach a man how to fish, you'll feed him for a lifetime. Give a man a fish, you've only fed him for a day. Teach people how to be prosperous, and you've changed their lives. Satisfy their impoverishment, and you've only given them a temporary reprieve. So the economic policy, implementing pro-growth tax policies, reducing federal regulations, and fostering energy independence to boost U.S. manufacturing. That is a good thing. Foreign policy. These are the pillars of the America First agenda. Foreign policy. Adopting a peace through strength approach. There's Ronald Reagan once said, walk softly but carry a big stick. That's what peace through strength is. Demanding NATO allies increase defense spending and confronting China on trade and aggression. Listen. So I'm a huge sports fan. I played college football and the like, and played high school sports. I've just been a sports enthusiast all my life. And my brother, who is now passed on, had a saying that I first heard, and he called, in sports, size always has some kind of impact on the game, whether it's a significant impact or whatever. In most instances, it's a significant impact. And so when we saw big people that were really soft and couldn't do anything, and they just had size but nothing else, we call them big for nothing. Okay. We call them, man, this dude is just a big for nothing. He ain't gonna do nothing. He ain't gonna stop nobody. He can't block nobody. He's just a big for nothing. America is the single greatest superpower on the planet. Okay? America is the single greatest superpower on the planet. China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, all of this, all of our known enemies out there included, none carry the prowess, the lethality, the readiness of the U.S. military. Period. Full stop. But we had become a big for nothing under the leadership of our elected leaders. We have become a big for nothing. People pushed us around. People ignored us. When we had a need for them to move, they ignored, didn't pick up our phone calls. They just ignored us because we had become, in their eyes, a big for nothing. Somebody with all the power that they have at their disposal, but we're never going to do anything with it. Well, that has changed on America First. And for one, I'm here for it. I'm just telling you. You may disagree with me, and I accept that disagreement, but I'm here for it to change the big for nothing attitude toward us to one that says, hey, we better be careful around America, because if not, they will exercise their power and strength. I'm here for that. I am all here for it, because if not, you know who will do that? China will. You know who will do that? Look at Ukraine. Russia will do it. Our enemies don't follow NATO. Our enemies do what they think is in the best interest of their countries. And so they should. Should there be alliances? Absolutely. Should there be understandings? Absolutely. For example, there is what is known as the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, signed between us and our enemies. As long as they abide by it, we abide by it. But if they choose not to abide by it, hello, somebody, I'm here for that. I'm here for walking softly and carrying a big stick. Foreign policy, domestic policy, promoting school choice and parental rights in education, strengthening law enforcement, and targeting drug cartel. Tell me what's wrong with America First agenda. Yeah, you can argue with the fact that some of the way that is being implemented is a bit harsh. I will agree with you 100%, but I will take that and deal with and make corrections there, rather than just getting rid of the America First agenda, or demonizing the America First agenda, or vilifying the America First agenda. Give it to me. I'm here for it. I'm telling you. And I'm speaking not just as an American citizen. We're going to talk about that here in the remainder of the broadcast. But I'm here also as a kingdom heir. So when we talk about the America First agenda, this is the America First agenda. People will nitpick and pick at and find nuances to argue about, but this, by and large, is the America First agenda. And as I said just a second ago, I'm here for it. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. That type of here for it. Because foreigners, when they look at me, they don't see a kingdom heir. They see an American citizen. They listen to my voice. They hear my accent. They look at my behavior. They look at the way I dress. They see an American citizen first. Then after we get to talking, they understand my spiritual standings and status, and they begin to understand other things about me. But they recognize me as an American first. And when you hear the term, the America First agenda, try your level best not to get caught up in the nuances, but to understand that this is in your best interest. Okay? Now, one thing I would like to see about America First agenda, I like to see improved about it. I think there are some, we still in this country, not as a nation, let me be very clear, but as individuals, we still have a problem with race in this country. And quite frankly, I don't know how you get rid of that other than begin to promote racial harmony, racial, not agreement, but unity, racial unity, through public service announcements, through commercials, through the movie industry, promote racial unity. And I think we've come a long way, but we still have some things to address, because there is too much individual racism that plagues this country that we can deal with. I want to say something else as well. I want to say something that I think we need to be mindful of as well, and that is we need to as well. I'll tell you what. I'll refrain from saying that. We'll move on. Okay. So this is the America First agenda. All right. For many people, this agenda is polarizing, and that's why I said I advocated that you don't, you know, just immediately vilify it and demonize it when you hear the term America First, simply because you think it's racist and you think it's homophobic and you think it's misogynistic or you think it's xenophobic. All of those the phobias that we talk about and you hear articulated in the media. This is the written America First agenda. When we think about the polarization of it, that leads to a broader conversation about the overall polarization of this country and how polarized we are when it comes to certain issues. And one of the things that I want to say about that issue is how polarizing our president is. And I'll be the first to tell you, I am stunned, confused, befuddled, pick an adjective, as to why. He is bombastic, outspoken, a counterpuncher. He is all of those things. Okay? But name one powerful person, name one president that hasn't been. Some are a little bit more polished than others in the way they present themselves. You know, I think probably one of the most polished presidents we've ever had was President Obama. Very, very polished and measured in the way he said, but he did things in the background that would, well, for me, he did things in the background that completely disgusted me. The homosexual thing, the some of the economic policies that he put forward, but he was polished. He presented the things to you, and President Obama had the ability to tell you to go to hell, and you'd wave and thank him for telling you to do so. That's how polished he was. And look, that's the nature of his. You take and you juxtapose that with President Donald Trump. There's nothing polished about Donald Trump. You get what you get. And for one, I'm here for it because I want to know what you think. I don't know what you're telling me. I want to know what you think and what you're going to do. And President Trump love him, hate him, like him, dislike him. He is doing what he promised the American people he would do. Bring jobs back to America, lock the southern border, strengthen our presence in foreign policy. You have European leaders calling him daddy. I think it was the leader of Germany made a passing comment that to the effect that daddy has arrived. And it was a jovial comment, but she referred to him in such a way to give him the respect of such a presence of that he commands. But I want to talk about him for just a second, the polarization. And it stuns me that he is such a polarizing figure in many people's eyes. Because when you look at what he has done, not what he has said, when you look at what he has done, I am hard pressed to find enough, and I'm going to caveat that to say that enough of what he has done to say that he is a racist, a homophobic, a xenophobic. I find that stunning to me that people have come to that conclusion. And so what I land on is the fact that they've come to that conclusion because they're at odds with him politically. They just don't like the fact that he is of a certain political party. And as such, that automatically makes him the enemy. And therefore, people begin to respond to that and react to that in such a way. I have spent way too much time on that Give me, let's move on to the kingdom agenda. So when I talk about the kingdom agenda and juxtaposing that or um, aligning that with the America First agenda, I think the kingdom agenda has more in common with the America First agenda than it does with the globalist agenda. Okay? Globalism. The kingdom agenda is, as it is being revealed by Mother, emphasize the importance of intimacy between the born again heir and Elohim. It de-emphasizes the reliance of the heir on the of influence that have traditionally come from influences of religion, tradition, and traditional leadership of church experience. The kingdom agenda is a complete shift away from what we have traditionally known as religion. The kingdom agenda, and you can see here at the pillars of the kingdom agenda, focus on intimacy, maturity, personal accountability, and spiritual growth. Got nothing to do with the church, nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with your religious leaders, nothing to do with your religious organization. This is about you and God, our Elohim, our mother and father. I would even dare say that even Yeshua has very little to do with you and the kingdom agenda, as much as it is mother and father and you and the kingdom agenda. Let me be clear. We have placed so much emphasis on Yeshua that we've begun to worship him. Yes, that's what Christianity did. It became less about the message of Yeshua and more about the worship of Yeshua. And that's where we've missed the mark. Again, I'm here for that. We miss the mark with the worship of Yeshua rather than focusing on the message of Yeshua. His message declared that we focused on Father. At least that's what the written text talks about. Not him, but Father. I must decrease, that he must increase. It is imperative that we begin to understand that the kingdom agenda is about me and my engagement with the Creator, which is Mother, Father, Holy Spirit, and Holy Spirit and Mother are one and the same. Okay? It's about Mother and Father and me. That's what this kingdom agenda is about in this season. Intimacy. You've heard me talk about at length intimacy on this broadcast. And I will continue to talk about intimacy on this broadcast because without it, you will fall victim to this coming season, to the issues surrounding this season. You will fall victim. You're going to get caught up in things that have nothing to do with advancing the kingdom, nothing to do with mother and father. You're going to get caught up in the energy and the issues around politics and social and all of that, and miss the kingdom mandate. That's what's going to happen to you if you don't engage intimacy and don't engage the ability to understand what the voice of God sounds like, what the voice of God is saying to you in these times, in these moments. That's what you're dealing with. That's what you're going to have to come to terms with. So intimacy is a critical pillar in this kingdom agenda. Maturation. How many of us have ever seen someone that should be grown acting like a child? We've all seen it, right? And I use the term child loosely, but acting way below their expected level of maturity. How many times have you seen somebody like that? We see it all the time. We see people behave in such a way that, come on, man, you got to be more grown than that, surely, right? That's our reaction to that. So spiritual maturity is very similar to that. Too many of us are still begging God to do things that you ought to be taking authority and responsibility for in your own growth, in your own spiritual walk. You ought to be taking that on. You shouldn't even be going to God to ask God to fix that for you. You should be declaring that and commanding the kingdom to bring that knowledge, understanding, experience into your presence and into your access. That's what you should be doing. But instead, we've been taught, well, we got to beg God, we got to ask God, we got to pray to God, we got to seek God, we got to beseech God, we got to, all of these things, we got to go to God, we got to go to God, but if you spend time with intimacy, God will tell you, look, son, don't come ask me that. That's on you. I have 4 grown children, 4. Yesterday, I just spent the entire day, well, not the entire day, but after 12 o'clock to about 9 o'clock with my youngest daughter to buy her car. Now, she didn't ask me to pay for it. She didn't ask me to co-sign for it. She didn't ask me for the down payment. She went out and bought a car. She just wanted me there for her first experience buying the car on her own. Okay? She just wanted me there to give her advice, to counsel with her, to help her understand where we were in the moment. And that's what we did. We spent the entire day together, had lunch together, and what have you. Talking about maturity here. Now, we went through that process, and she walked away yesterday having signed her own papers, her own loan, her own insurance, having signed all of those things so that she can purchase her car. Okay? The next time she has to do that, guess what? She won't have to come to me. Well, I got another example for you. My oldest son recently went out and purchased a car. And guess what? He didn't tell me that he purchased the car until after the car was sitting in his driveway. So you can see the level of maturity between my youngest daughter, who is demonstrating a level of maturity, but still was relying upon some support from me to get it done, and my oldest son, who is demonstrating another level of maturity, who didn't even tell me about the new car until it was sitting in his driveway. Both my children, both exercising their maturity at 2 different levels. Some of us are at that place where we still have to talk to God. Yeah, and that's fine if that's where you are. But some of us are at a place where we shouldn't be consulting with God about certain things, but yet you are. Yet you are. Where do you stand in that maturation portal, in that maturation timeline? Personal accountability. It ain't God's fault that you're in the mess you're in. You made some decisions. You made some choices. Let's flip the coin. God didn't do all the things that brought success to you, or everything about what brought success to you. God just gave you the power to gain wealth and success. And you exercised that power and went and got it on your own, just like my son went and bought that car on his own. Spiritual growth. We're gonna wrap it up right here because we're right at an hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. Some of us need to grow spiritually. Some of us need to grow. Um, we need to increase our spiritual growth. You're too immature. We need to grow, and some of us have arrived at spiritual maturity. Accept that about yourself. Allow yourself to be impressed with you, that you are mature. You are mature. Say that with me. I am mature. You see, religion wants to keep you um, dependent upon them. So they deny you your maturity. Oh, nobody can ever be mature. You always need that. That's what religion wants to do. Whereas the kingdom agenda wants you to be mature and grow spiritually. But listen, beloved, I went long, long, long in the tooth about the America First agenda. I do want to um, at least read some of the comments from the audience. Abdel, my good friend, classmate, neighbor from way back in the day. Poor people are poor because they want to be. It might sound simple, however, just as you said, they will never go against their best interest. They will. They are not willing to sacrifice. There you go. He went on to say, let me say, show it up on the screen. Um, Theodore Roosevelt said, okay, it was Theodore Roosevelt, and Ronald Reagan repeated it. Thank you, Abdel. Walk softly, but carry a big stick. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's another comment. A number of presidents before Trump have touted the America First agenda. However, they were mostly just used the words. Trump is the first to make promises and work to get it done. I can't say enough, Abdel, about uh, the fact that I'm here for that. America First has to be a part of where this country goes. And I believe America First is complementary of the kingdom agenda. Yes, there are some nuances in the way it's enacted and what have you, but at a core, the America First agenda is at agreement with the kingdom agenda. And I'll say this and I'll begin to close. How can you as a family help someone else as a family if your family is impoverished and in disarray? You can't. Get your house in order, then I can help these other individuals. Get the mote out of your eye first, then I can see clearly, or the beam out of your eye, then I can see clearly to help the other person with the issues that they have. Amen? Well, listen, beloved, thank you so very much. We have come to the end of a very energetic. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast and the subject that we were talking about. Abdel, thank you for the comments. Um, um, and really appreciate your input. And for those of you that are watching, listen, if you'd like to support this broadcast, please feel free to support us with your support. You can reach us on Cash App at the $LC Bellany, $LC Bellany, or you can reach us on PayPal at the @LC Bellany and make a contribution there. We would certainly appreciate any support that you can give us, and I would appreciate you doing so as a show of support for what we're sharing with you here live on Sunday mornings. Well, until next time, beloved, thank you so very much for joining us. Thank you so much for being a part of the broadcast. Until then, I want to ask you to be well, be blessed, and we'll see you next Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, right here